Hello everyone and welcome to another Nice Talks. We are now live discussing how to prevent an identity theft at the contact center with Michael Kellerman. Our key messages today are voice biometrics is the best protection for fraud at the contact center, and Nice real-time authentication protects callers from identity theft and account takeover, and working in conjunction with other fraud prevention methods, voice biometrics offers even stronger protection. So Michael, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
I have a question for you. We see a massive rise in fraud incidents in recent years, and especially identity theft, which grew by 8% in the past year or so. In addition, there are more data breach incidents, and they're getting bigger every time. The Equifax scandal is probably the most known one. But there are others that are happening daily, right? So how is this affecting your business?
Wow, that is a scary thought, and we do see it quite a bit here recently. And it affects business tremendously, but it also affects consumers. And I think that's what I want to focus on a little bit. I'm well aware of consumers today, friends and family that have had account takeovers and lost their money waking up to an empty account. And that's become a huge problem because fraudsters have access to information in the contact center. So it's becoming more and more aware to the consumer.
All right. So how is this actually influencing the contact centers?
Well, the contact center really is considered today the weakest link in the chain, and fraudsters know that, imposters know that, bad actors know that, and they're very versed at calling into contact centers and phishing for information and trying to utilize the contact center to get information and do account takeovers. So the contact center is the very weak link, and there's certain tools that can be used to prevent that type of phishing and account takeover within the contact center.
All right, okay, so they're understanding that they're in risk. What can they do about it?
Well, there's several different things, and obviously voice biometrics is the strongest method, and there's two different types of voice biometrics that can be utilized to protect the contact centers today. And the first method is really authenticating your customers properly by utilizing voice biometrics to create a unique voice print for your customers that can identify their claimed identity when they're calling in. That protects your customers. So that's the voice authentication piece. But it's a two-tiered approach, and what's unique about NICE is having that basically the ability to kill two birds with one stone. So the second prong would be the watch list or the fraud capabilities. So not only having that unique voice print for your customers, but also having what's called a watch list. And that watch list consists of fraudsters, known fraudsters put on that watch list so that when they do call in, they're identified and in real time can be sent via alert to your risk team to stop transactions.
Wow, that's powerful. So how do you know how to build this watch list? How do you know who your fraudsters are?
That's a great question. In the past, and the way people have done it is usually by listening to calls. It's a repetitive process. It's a tedious process. So the risk team usually will have to identify first the risk, then listen to the calls, identify the potential fraudster before they could then add them to the watch list. With some new technology that NICE has presented, including our recording platform and some machine learning technology, we're able to actually automate that process. So we could take these high-risk factors, we could take these high-risk calls, compare them against each other, essentially, and be able to identify fraudsters so that they can automatically be added to that watch list so that when they do call in, they're identified in real time and stopping any bad transactions from occurring.
That's really, really cool. That sounds like a major advantage for businesses.
Oh, it's a major advantage, yes. The nice thing about this, too, is it kind of gives you a preemptive approach or a proactive approach to stopping fraud in the contact center. In the past, like I said, it was usually after the fraud occurred or after the phishing occurred within the IVR. But now, by having this ability to create that list from potential fraudsters and high-risk contacts, you're able to proactively stop fraud in the contact center.
That is really amazing. So I guess it's fair to assume that it's not going to, that machine learning can't catch everything. So what do you do when it a fraudster gets through? How is that handled?
Well, great question on that too. We use two things. So basically we use both the watch list and the authentication. That way you're definitely keeping that fraudster from getting into the contact center. So having that ability to check both voice prints at the same time in real time gives you that ability to stop the fraud from getting through.
Okay, so it's kind of from both directions. So how, back to the voice biometrics, how accurate would you say that part is?
Voice biometrics is the most accurate authentication factor available to the contact center today. But we don't just rely on that. There's a couple different things that most people that have looked into authentication factors see and understand. And there's 3 ways to identify a customer or authenticate a customer and potentially identify a fraudster. The first one is something you know, and that is the traditional KBA or knowledge-based authentication questions that have been used for years and years. What's your mother's maiden name? Last 4 of Social Security. But as we know, based on the recent Equifax breach and others, that information is readily accessible to fraudsters out there. The second way is something you have. And something you have may be your device identification or your phone validation, your ANI information from your phone. The third way is the something you have, something you are. And the something you are is your biometrics, your voice. That's something that cannot be stolen or taken as the other factors.
That's really cool.
And you know what? In addition to that, we're utilizing additional factors on top of the voice biometrics. So we have a solution that includes multi-factor authentication on top of the voice biometrics. So making it even stronger when your customers call in, they're getting an authentication. Let's say, for example, a customer calls in and it's a low-risk call. You can utilize voice biometrics through the multi-factor. But with NICE, we also have an optimization engine that decides when to use other factors. And the other factors could include the phone validation or device validation or other factors that you may already be using. And within that solution, imagine being able to optimize that call based on the risk of the call or the caller ID, the type of call. So as the call's coming in, our engine can decide, do we need to use voice biometrics, or do we need to use voice biometrics in combination with another authentication factor? Or if you're on a call with a customer and they change, they start out at a low risk and then decide to, hey, I've been authenticated, let me try and do a quick $50,000 transfer, it'll automatically invoke another requirement for authentication, so a step-up type of situation.
That's very neat. That's very smart. Wow, the things that you don't think about every day.
Yes.
So how exactly does this work? How do you do this?
Well, basically, NICE has come up with an optimization engine or a smart engine. And the way the engine works, it utilizes information coming in from the call. And again, for example, like the ID or the ANI or the risk. Let's say, for example, somebody chooses, I want to check my account balance. That may be a low risk type of call. The optimization engine then looks at that, combines it with other factors of the call, and decides what to use to authenticate that customer. And since voice biometrics is the most secure, it's also the least expensive because it's sold on a licensing basis rather than a per usage or per call, like the phone validation or the ANI spoofing. It's the optimal way of presenting that factor. So we can choose not only to give you a better authentication experience for your customers in a passive and seamless way, we can also do it in a way that can be more efficient and less costly by eliminating the requirement of using 2 or 3 or 4 factors on every single call. So basically the optimization engine says we only need to use 1 factor on this call because it's low risk, 2 factors in combination for a medium risk, etc. So that way you utilize or optimize the factors that you have.
Fascinating. So I'm assuming in the voice biometrics world there are probably competitors. So, you know, what makes the NICE solution above and beyond? Why is this a better multi-factor authentication solution?
Well, in combination with the multi-factor capabilities, and I'll talk about that in a second, we also have the single voice print technology. So imagine being able to use a single voice print to authenticate both in the live agent and the IVR. And now, adding on this multi-factor capability, which only NICE does, we can optimize based on the factor, based on the risk of the call. Our competitors are looking at this and they may be able to present a second factor, a third factor, but each of those are point solutions. They're very separate. They're not combined. So in other words, a competitor may use voice biometrics, but they're also going to use phone validation. So the requirement is on every single call to use both factors. With us, we can choose when to use those factors, therefore not having to pay the higher cost associated with the per use factors that are available.
That's so neat. That's so neat. I love that about NICE. We always are so customer driven, trying to save that penny for that customer. It seems like that's a thread always in the NICE solutions. So this doesn't sound simple. So how do you do this in a way that doesn't affect the customer's satisfaction overall?
I think that's the best part of this type of solution. It's seamless, it's passive, it doesn't require any effort from the customer, it doesn't require any effort from the agent, which makes it better. It's done in the background. Again, the voice authentication is being done in the first few seconds of a call. If it invokes a second factor requirement, that's also seamless and passive. Therefore, the accept or deny is popped up to the screen, and the agent could proceed with servicing of the call. So it's a great customer experience. And on top of that, having the ability to have that same customer experience in cross channels like mobile or IVR is also a great tool.
So you're actually saying that we're improving the customer experience.
Absolutely.
That's just awesome.
Yeah, and that's been in the past. Whenever you try to help with fraud, you usually reduce that customer experience. But with our multi-factor engine, the optimization engine, and voice biometrics, we've actually improved it.
Fantastic. Well, this is really, really interesting. I thank you so much for this amazing conversation. So for our viewers that probably want to know more, what do they do? Where do they go?
NICE.com. Just visit NICE.com. And at the end of this message, you'll also find out ways that you can see a demonstration of our NICE real-time authentication, and contact us if you'd like to have a visit.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for viewing today.
Thanks, Abby.